So I'm here to talk to Jim Chorley about his new record, Let the Truth Be Known. This is Jim. Hello, Jim.
All right, Pete. How you doing?
Good.
You right?
Yes. Yeah. Slightly awkward experience for both of us because, we've been chatting quite readily in the cafe beforehand, and a couple of times we've met to talk about this project.
And we've known each other for decades as well.
A long time, yeah. But now it actually comes to having a chat with cameras rolling.
Yeah.
Slightly more difficult proposition, but I'm sure we'll get to.
We'll warm up.
We'll
The red light is on, isn't it?
Yeah,
So.
red light fever. I've got a bunch of questions in front of me, which all relate to Let the Truth Be Known. And the first thing I want to ask you about is the machine that you recorded the album on. It's unusual in as much as it's a vintage recording device.
Yeah.
Made by Boss, about 20 years old. Why did you choose that machine to record this album on?
So the Boss BR1200 is a thing that I've had in my little home studio set up now for 20 years. When it first came out, I bought it. Before that, previously, I'd sort of used the old Fostex and the Tascam, the tape recorders that we all used to use.
Yeah.
Those really early ones. And then when that one came out, I just sort of bought it primarily as a little device to sort of do demos on, and then maybe come to studios like this and kind of create the full track, the full production. But over the years, sort of getting to learn how it works, and just enjoying the ability to be able to go into my little room there and just kind of create what I need to create and get my own kind of sounds with it. It just sort of led naturally towards me thinking like, I'm going to try and do an album on it.
Yeah.
Previously before it had been like maybe a couple of singles and bits and pieces, but
what kind of mics have you got in your studio?
So now you say, you put me on the spot in regards to
just looking around as we're in the studio, and these are directional mics. I mean,
I've got a condenser that I use, and that's generally really the one mic that I used for it. Yeah,
what,
just
for all the
one
instruments,
mic.
like singing into as well?
Yeah, all of the instruments we used that one mic, just one set. The thing is, what I wanted to do with it is a really sort of what we used to call DIY setup.
Yeah.
And for me, it was using what you've got, rather than thinking, shit, I need this equipment before I can do this and I need that. It was literally, I've got this equipment, let's try and get the very best out of it that we can. And one mic, like how they used to use it in the old days, one mic, Elvis Presley style.
There's percussion on the record.
There is.
How was that achieved?
So we've got some shakers on there, we've got all the kind of classic little percussion instruments, but then we've got a little bit of a sort of DIY drum kit.
Yeah, because when you hear this, you'll realise this. But when I listened to the record, I thought there was a drummer on it. I thought it was like a really like stripped back kit. Yeah, sounded like a bass drum and a snare drum on there. But but it's not, is it? What is it?
So there is a snare drum on there.
Actual snare drum.
There is a snare drum, a real live snare drum. Then we've got a cajon, which I use for the kick drum.
Yeah.
And then I even did some little things where I sort of set up some old kind of like battered tambourines and used them for like the hi-hat. So it would be kind of like a rudimentary sort of drum kit, really sort of, So
did you record the bass, like the kick drum all the way through and then go back and do the snare, or you're doing all the snare with one hand? And
doing that all kind of with one. I mean, even some of it, it's like, it doesn't, you won't hear it on the record, but some of those hi-hats are played with a pencil on the tambourine.
Yeah,
just to try and get that kind of like something a little bit different sounding.
Well, it does sound. It sounds like a drummer really holding back,
right?
And playing really precisely. And that's what I thought.
Yes,
I thought maybe Mike or somebody had done the drumming, but I was really pleasantly surprised when I found out it was you kind of like doing all that.
Yeah.
So that brings me on to the fact that the majority of instruments and sounds on this record were produced solely by you. Was that limiting or was it freeing?
I think it's a bit of both. It was a bit of both, really. I mean, coming from that real sort of self-taught punk rock background where you pick up a guitar, learn 3 chords, and just, again, it's like using what you've got. It was all about, like, I wanted to push myself with this. I wanted to kind of like, I'm a songwriter. I've been writing songs for decades, released a number of singles and EPs, but with this one, I wanted to really do a full-length album. And see what I could do myself, see what was in me, kind of like, in musical terms, in production terms. And so it was a very much, because it's in my a small little room that I've got at home. I was there working really late at night till really early in the morning, and I'm able to kind of like, really work out those guitar parts, those bass lines, all that sort of stuff. And some of the things that is not maybe my instrument, because you've got the time and the facility at home, rather than in the studio where time is always money.
It was like a learning experience for you. You've actually probably know more about the different parts that go into making the music than you did before, because other people would have done it for you. So very DIY.
That sort of thing. Yeah. At the heart of this record, at the very, very heart of this record, I mean, it's called Let the Truth Be Known, but at the very heart of it is that it's about it being a truthful sounding record that is like, it's what I could do and achieve.
Yeah. You mentioned that you've done singles and EPs before. Did this feel like a marathon, or did it feel, what's the difference between recording, just getting down and writing a couple of songs, an A side and a B side, and doing the single in a weekend? Yeah. And this is a much longer project. Those are the time differences, but how does that feel to you as the artist doing it?
It feels that I would create like demos on that recording setup that I've got at home, and then take that to a studio. Yeah. And like you say, you usually you're doing that quite a quick process, because you don't want to get in the studio, with spend loads of time in there. So
time is money.
Time is money, like we've already said. Yeah, so you want to get in that studio and know what it is that you're going to achieve. Whereas when you're recording at home like that, like you say, it's a marathon. You're in it for that long period. I mean, I did set myself a deadline, because I didn't want it to be like that kind of thing where, because you're doing it and it's your kit, sometimes I think it can be like an unending process. Yeah. Where you just keep going and you become perfectionist with it. I didn't want any of that shit in it.
Like Stone Roses.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be like that, right? I wanted it to be that, like, I'm obviously each track had to have the time it took to record it, but I set myself a deadline of, it was around 3 months, I think.
Right,
from start to finish. Yeah. But like I say, a marathon's a good word, because it was, working on it all the free time that I had.
I read somewhere that it was, it was this summer. So is that June, July, August, or when did you get started on it?
Started around sort of May.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was around May, June, July.
Right.
That kind of time frame. Or maybe just previous to the beginning of May, but around that.
Didn't you want to be out in the garden?
The summer wasn't that good this year, was it?
Can't really remember. It was all right.
Was it? It wasn't a classic, not a vintage.
I suppose if you were working evenings, you could get a bit of summer sunshine, or walk by the beach and then
get a bit of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be honest with you, Pete, I literally locked myself in that room. It was that, when I wasn't out and about in the day, and whenever, all the times that I could get, I was in there. And that's the beauty of having your own setup, isn't it?
Yes.
I was literally in there in my box shorts.
Well, that's an image. While it's fresh in my
with
mind.
Other clothes as well.
Of course,
just,
goes without saying. Well, string vest. I was just thinking about the summer and getting out and about and that kind of thing, and listening to the record and when all of your work to date, there's a kind of pastoral. It's about the. I think I said something about it being metaphysical, and it's like the metaphysical poets. They always talked about the way nature and the elements are reflected in humanity and vice versa. Right. And I think I felt, for example, I think there's a simple metaphor like was it simile? Running like the wind, or the wind and the sun, and all the nature's elements get mentioned in your work. Is that even a question? I
don't know where you were going with that. You didn't know either, did you?
No.
You started off well.
Yeah, I think I kind of answered it. So basically, I was going to say, having talked about the passing the summer, working by night. Mm-hmm. I've always felt that there was a metaphysical element to your songwriting. Do you know what I mean?
Do I know what you mean
by that? By metaphysical. Okay. How does nature inform your writing?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, it's really interesting because, like, you know, when you sort of look back at your life and you kind of think about where your inspirations come from,
Yeah.
you know, they start really early, don't they? They don't just come all of a sudden. It's something that happens from a really early part of your life, these kind of
Unconsciously.
experiences
Yeah.
and all these things that you go through. And then later on in life, it all comes out. So I think it starts for me when I was really young. Like, I grew up in Shirley in Southampton on the council estate there. And, you know, there's not really many places, not really that many places in Southampton for like views. Do you know what I mean? Your mind doesn't get opened in regards to like landscapes. And at school I went to, I was lucky enough to be able to go on a trip to Yorkshire.
Yeah.
And this was sort of like in the late 70s. And I remember going out onto the Yorkshire moors, and it almost like literally felt like that. Like my mind was opened by those huge views, you know.
It's a geography trip.
No, it was a we went for the week. Yeah, so it was just we went for, you know, went to York and went to all the little places there. I went to the Bronte House and all that kind of thing. And it made a massive impression on me. And around that time also as well, there was a Channel 4 series that came out called One Summer. It was about these two boys from Liverpool. You remember that?
I was talking to somebody about that just the other day. We were talking.
Billy and Icky.
Icky.
Yeah.
Because there's a chord on the guitar, two fingers like this, so kind of an A.
Right.
And if you put that on and you go, it's the
soundtrack.
It's the bit from between when he used to go to the adverts. He used to go.
I remember that.
I was talking to somebody about that. only the other day.
Yeah,
One summer. I couldn't remember what it was called. Icky.
Yeah, Billy and Icky.
Yeah.
And so they get themselves into a bit of a scrape in Liverpool, and they go off and find themselves in Yorkshire, and they have like an adventure there. And so I'd already been to Yorkshire, kind of experienced that, mind opened, you know, kind of like
so
wow.
That reinforced it.
And then watching that programme of these two lads, kind of like, you know, going to Yorkshire and the things that they went to. And I think then throughout the years, I've always been drawn to, you know, the countryside and sort of nature and all those sorts of elements. And then that comes through, you know, in your songwriting and in your expression, you know, in a real natural way, you know, in a real authentic way.
I mean, the word folk springs to mind. Is that what makes your music folk music, do you think? Because it's like of the environment, you know, like it's Hampshire as well as being English. Yeah. And we've also, while we're talking about it, you know, you've mentioned Southampton. I walking down here today, I walked through your old stomping ground and the kind of beech leaves. Well, it's a horrible day today, windy and rainy, and Shirley Towers like looming above me, and all the but there's still something kind of and written into the paving stones underneath Shirley Towers.
I've seen that. Yeah,
it's really good, isn't it?
Yeah,
all the little quotes from people. Yeah. There's it says like all the people that live in this 1 acre. You know, and so what I'm talking about now is the poetry of place element to your music. You know, it's Southampton. How does Southampton come through on this record in particular?
There's a number of songs where like it references places. You know, there's one of the songs talks about Guildhall Square in the very first track, Waiting for the Tides to Change. It references Guildhall Square, which is a place that we all know in Southampton. A number of things. It's not always totally obvious with this record. Some songs that I've written in the past, literally like it will talk about specific areas and roads and the bridges or whatever. With this one, it's not always 100% coming out fully in the lyric.
We're on the Common on one of them.
Yeah,
isn't it the one where the guy's running? What's that track?
Yeah, that's called Heaven Help Me.
Is he on the Common, or did I just
He's
imagine
not actually
that?
on the Common? Although the interesting thing about that song is that the inspiration for that song does come from a story that my dad told me years ago when I was growing up.
A Southampton story.
A Southampton story. Yeah. And in the story, there's this man who's in a real sort of turmoil in what actually happened in real life. He was in real turmoil and crisis. And he found himself, you know, one of those sort of dark nights of the soul type things.
Yeah.
So it was never specifically about where he was, but he was in Southampton.
Yeah. I
won't go fully into telling the story,
no.
But it's inspired by
I think
a character from Southampton, shall we say.
Because he's running and the sun setting.
Yeah.
I think the Common is just one of those places where if you're coming across it and you get a good view of like you were saying, views in Southampton, because it's on quite a level, although you've got the hills around it. If you're in the centre of Southampton and the sun's setting, the Common's a good place to see it. That's why I imagine that's where he was, if it was a good...
Well, that's the things with songs, isn't it? Is that like, as the songwriter, you create it from your own experience or an imagined experience or a story that you're wanting to tell, and then you want your listener to be able to paint their own places within their imagination or from places that they know. That's when a song does its...
Well, I think, that's
its job.
A good moment to... Because, pre this talk, we had another talk in the cafe.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the modern way that artists almost, we felt, kind of overindulge themselves and just say, this song's about this song's about that.
Yeah.
And we were harking back to a time when the artist would put the music out, the listener would find their own meaning in it.
All right.
And would you say that's what you would like people to do with Let the Truth Be
Definitely with this record. It's about, I mean, with all my work really, I mean, like we've already touched on that some of the songs that I write specifically do reference places and they are really clear, but definitely I do want that to, be something that the listener is able to, what's the word I'm looking for? The word escapes me.
Relate
to in regards to their own experience, but also as well take it on as our own. And it's about a lot of this record. There's a lot of emotional content on there. It does go into a lot of places that are quite dark.
Yeah.
But there's redemption in there, and there's hope in there, and that's what this record's all about. It's trying to, it's telling some of my stories, telling some stories that I've heard along the way, and then telling them in a way that, like, hopefully people are entertained by, are moved by and inspired by, I think there's hope in the record. There's a lot of hope in there. That's what Let the Truth Be Known is all about.
Hope.
It's hope.
Yeah. So we touched there on the some of the things that you were going through at the beginning of writing the album, and I've got catharsis written down on my notes here. So how was it cathartic?
Well, I mean, in that period I was going through quite a kind of like difficult sort of personal challenges in my life, and it became, and actually that's one of the reasons why the record got started, because I needed a focus. I needed a focus that was very different than what was going on in my life, that literally I was in control of everything that happened on it. I mean, obviously we all know it's like, we've all had lives, and we all know that so much of our lives are not in our control. And sometimes it's about finding what actually am I in control of, as much as you can be. And that's when this record started, when I felt like there was lots of things happening out of my control. I need something kind of like creative to throw myself into. And so I started doing like the early kind of recording sessions, and then it was like, hold on a minute, this could be something a lot bigger. And then it was like, I'm gonna really challenge myself to record a full length, fully produced
how much
record.
Of it were you writing at the end in that 3-month period? Were most of the songs already written, or were you writing in at the same time as recording?
So there was, I'd say about half of the songs were already written. Some of those songs have been written over the sort of year before. Some had gone back a number of years before. And then the other half were written as the actual record was being recorded. I didn't set myself out the task, right, I'm going to write 10 tracks, then I'm going to record it. I sort of cherry picked a few to start off with, got the ball rolling, and then as that kind of like process started, then I started writing other tracks that were being informed, I think, by the feel of what I was creating. I
mean, the record does have a consistency. It all hangs together. I suppose that's because it's all recorded in the same place, using that same palette of instruments.
Right.
I was surprised when we first started talking about this. This is actually your first album, because I thought over like we said earlier on, the number of years I've known you, you've been making music and putting out music the whole time. I thought it might be the third or something. But so in a way, I think this is a bit of a milestone. It's kind of you're documenting some of the past years, and also looking to the future as well, and the way that your music's going to develop.
Sure. I mean, the thing is with this record is that it's what I had done in the past. I'd put out like put it out like a really, really soft release, as they say, of just like kind of some songs that just one track, just like microphone with vocals and guitar, you know, and just sort of stuck it out there. And I mean, that's around 15, if not 20 years ago now.
Was that like something to sell at gigs or?
Yeah, it was just sort of something. I think it's when I first got the studio, actually, when I first got that BR1200, you know, and was learning how to use it.
Yeah.
You know, I would just literally, because at that point, and still now, performing like as a solo artist, it's guitar and vocal. And I thought I just wanted to put something out, you know, to start off with just that kind of thing. And over the years, getting to know the ins and outs of that console a little bit more, learning how it works. And then it just kind of like, you know, singles and EPs sort of took up my time, and playing live and writing. To be honest with you, Pete, writing songs is the thing that's just captivated me for like coming up to almost 40 years. Yeah. So it's almost like there was a period where there was no time to record because it was just write. I was almost writing a song.
What's happened to all those songs?
Day. Some of them are in bags of, you know, carrier bags of paper.
Lyric sheets with chords written over the top.
Some of them have just disappeared.
Yeah.
Like they do.
Do you think the stuff you're writing now is better than... you're thinking, God, there's some lost gems back there, or do you think everything you're doing now is better than what you did then?
There's definitely some lost gems. There's some which I will and do need to record. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like I'm at the kind of place. I'm at the place now in my songwriting, recording, performing part of my career that it feels like I've always wanted to be at. Like, you know, when you first start this stuff, you know, when you're 16, 20, whatever, and you kind of look at artists and you go, do you know what, I really want to kind of be at that sort of songwriting level, whatever. I'm not saying I'm at the full songwriting level of some of my heroes, but I'm getting to places that I want to get to now. It's been a long road. Yeah,
I think you're able to kind of get out through the songs what you're trying to say without it's less of a struggle.
It's more of a natural conversation now. Yeah, you know, the words and the feel and all of it, because I've done it so many times, written so many songs now. Yeah. It's like that kind of boxer, you know, who's like trained for so long and now he's ready to go. It's that kind of feel.
That 10,000 hour...
that's it. 10,000 songs or something, or 10,000 hours. Or...
Yeah, expertness.
I don't know about expert, but definitely at a place where...
Yes. Yeah.
I've always wanted to be at, and by that, like really putting your nose to the grindstone or whatever the term may be. I feel that I'm sort of there now.
There's an element of putting the song, not to the grindstone, but like to the sandpaper. And like, because I think the way you're approaching your songwriting now is like, you're able to craft them and throw away the bits that maybe years ago you would have kept. Yeah. You're kind of being a bit more discerning. Yeah. There's more discernment going in there, and you can hear it. You know, it's like these songs are well put together, and I think all of us as like musicians and songwriters, that's the process. Frustratingly, some people like your Roddy Frames seem to get it straight away when they're 17 or 18 or something.
True enough.
And the rest of us, it takes a long time to kind of to make it sound that easy.
Quite an interesting thing is that like I think it can come very early in your career, can't it? Yeah. And then maybe as it kind of like, maybe it goes the other way, that, okay, maybe those artists, what they're recording later on in their career, they're always like, shit, they're never touching maybe where they...
Yeah, I suppose.
Right? Whereas
they become more self-conscious.
Right.
Because it's like, Roddy Frame, for instance, latter albums the production got lusher and he had
in
more
the
money.
80s, yeah.
But the fan base kind of went away because those raw emotional songs of the early days were gone. And maybe he never got it back.
Well, when he brought out, what's the name of the record? It's got like the London, like the kind of high-rise building on it, where it is literally him and one guitar again.
Right.
You heard that one?
No.
Oh, what's that called? He's got some beautiful songs on there. Really fantastic songwriting on that one.
Yeah.
It felt like he'd captured...
Yeah, it's probably always there, but like, he kind of lost his way.
Yeah.
And maybe if we'd had access to studios and things when we were writing our first songs, you know,
You throw everything at it.
but actually, like yourself, feeling much more comfortable about what I'm putting out now.
Yeah.
You know, it is, and listening to advice from other people. I think. I don't know. Do you do that?
Sometimes.
Like
Depends if it's good advice or if it's shit advice.
Producers and things. Like,
Right. Okay.
things like, you know, not settling for, you know, if you've got a song that isn't quite working, just throw bits away, throw the whole thing away, and then just start again.
Don't be precious.
No, rip it up and start again until you're happy with the thing.
Like Edwin Collins.
Yeah, exactly.
Edwin Jones.
That's another
That's
Southampton
a
reference.
Southampton reference.
It is.
Yeah.